Okay, good morning. We're at the Castle Air Museum's restoration hangar. It's February 29th, 2016, and you are looking at the body of our latest exhibit. This is the fuselage of an F-16A fighting Falcon, or it's more commonly nicknamed a Viper. It's a high-end fourth generation fighter in the United States Air Force. Has been since 1986. We acquired this one a few days ago from AMART, which is the Air Force's boneyard down in Tucson, Arizona. And it just arrived this morning at the Castle Air Museum. It was designed by the avionics division of General Electric, known as General Dynamics, in the 70s as a result of an Air Force, actually it was a multi-service directive, to design and acquire a lightweight multi-role fighter to replace those that were being phased out of what we were scaling down out of the Vietnam War, and there was a brain trust that basically concluded that what we needed to project American air dominance in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s was a multi-role aircraft that was inexpensive to build, inexpensive to maintain, and that could handle a wide variety of missions across multiple services and even be used as an export. A number of designs were submitted. Two made it all the way to the end, Northrop's YF-17, and this, General Dynamics, is YF-16. Eventually the Navy opted with the Northrop design, which became the FA-18 Hornet, but this is what grew out of the YF-16. This is an F-16 fighting Falcon. At one time, the United States Air Force had, upwards of 600 of these. It's still in frontline service today. We have about 400 F-16s in the inventory right now in active service. It's a frontline multi-role fighter. About 86% of its design is compatible from the left side of the airplane to the right side of the airplane, so the parts are very easy to swap. It's relatively inexpensive. I think someone told me a long time ago that back in 1981 dollars, this aircraft cost about $35 million to build. And I know that sounds like a lot of money, but the sister aircraft that goes with this F-16 is called an F-15 Eagle. And in 1981, that aircraft cost $65 million to build, not to maintain, to build. So this is about half the cost of the F-15, and both the F-15 and the F-16 serve today in frontline service with units around the world. The F-16 is also used by a number of foreign air forces. Most notably, Israel has some, France has some, England has some, I think Germany has some. It's all over the place. The Netherlands have them. It was a very, very good export model in the 80s and 90s, and it's due to see service well into the 2020s. Its only replacement at this time is the F-22 Raptor, which is a much more expensive design. So these aircraft are on frontline service because they're very, very good at what they do. This aircraft can dogfight. This aircraft can drop bombs with great precision, smart weapons. It can do reconnaissance missions. I think the only thing it probably cannot do very well is air-to-air refueling. But at any rate, that's what a multi-role fighter is for. It's designed to do a whole bunch of different things so that you don't need 6 different types of airplanes, each of which is good at only one thing. You just need one airplane, maybe 2 airplanes, that are pretty good at doing a whole bunch of different things. That was the basic requirement that came out of the brain trust in the 1970s. So we acquired this F-16 a few days ago. It served with, hi John, it served with the 144th, I believe that's a tactical fighter wing with the Air National Guard down in Fresno, California. One of our more recent board members was responsible for taking this aircraft to the boneyard. Not exactly the way you probably want to be associated with it, but we're very, very glad that we rescued it from the boneyard. And now it's on indefinite loan to the Castle Air Museum from the United States Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. So that's the background of the exhibit. I'll tell you more later. Okay, these are some of our restoration volunteers who work at the hangar behind me and to my left 3 or 4 days a week, and they are getting ready to lift the body of the aircraft off the flatbed that it came in on. By the way, this is another interesting thing. The museum wouldn't function very well without the help of many, many volunteers and partner organizations, like, for instance, Jameson. They own this large flatbed, and their idea of donating to the museum is letting us borrow their flatbed when we need it. For instance, when we need to move an airplane. So they brought it here all the way up from Arizona for free. Yeah. We give them a tax write-off on the cost of the transport, of course, and that's how they benefit from it. But if it weren't for people like that, the museum would not function. So, thank you. Now, getting back to the airplane. The F-16 is pretty fascinating in a few respects. I mentioned earlier that it's primarily a dogfighter. It's also an attack jet. It isn't dedicated to either one mission or the other because it is a multi-role aircraft. It has a number of unique features, though, that really make it fascinating. It is the first American fighter jet to use what we call fly-by-wire design. The controls are electric. They're not mechanical. A great deal of biological study went into the design of the cockpit. It's got a reclining seat, which you cannot see underneath that opaque canopy under there, but the seat reclines about 30 degrees or so, and that's intentional. When a pilot has to maneuver the airplane strongly, he's subjected to very powerful G-forces, which increase his weight and make it difficult to move in the cockpit. The seats recline 30 degrees to take the force of the G's that he's pulling and basically spread them out across the length of the seat in a way that makes it more comfortable for the pilot to look behind him and see what's back there. No other airplane has that feature. The aircraft also has an unconventional control stick in the sense that most aircraft, like the F-4 Phantom II, the F-15 Eagle, etc., they all have centerline control columns, meaning the control stick that the pilot normally uses to steer the airplane is located in the middle of the cockpit, right between his knees, but not in the F-16. The F-16 has a side stick controller that's pressure sensitive, not movement sensitive. In a normal airplane with a conventional control column, the pilot would actually move the control column to his left in order to turn the airplane to the left. Obviously, he'd move it to the right to turn the airplane to the right, but the control column responds to movement. The F-16s looks more like the kind of joystick you might see in a video game. It's short, it's squat, it's located on the right console, and you can only operate it with your right hand. It isn't movement sensitive, it's pressure sensitive. You just push on it, and it senses how much pressure you're putting on the control column, and that's what activates the control actuators that actually move the control surfaces around and yield a turn. Let me see, what else can I tell you about the aircraft? It has the exact same engine as its partner, the F-15. They both use a General Electric F-100 afterburning turbofan engine. It's a very good, very reliable, very powerful, and very large turbojet. I'm sorry, it's not a turbojet, it's a turbofan. My apologies. It's in the 25,000 pound class. Later models of the engine can put up to about 26 to 27,000 pounds. That's a good deal more than the J79 that's used in the F4 Phantom. So having an engine that's common between both the F-15 and the F-16 makes it easy to do engine maintenance in the sense that the spare parts that work for one airplane work just as well for the other airplane. So that keeps the maintenance costs low. That was one of the sidebar directives that they came up with when they designed this airplane. They wanted it to be easy to build, easy to maintain, and affordable. It was supposed to be a low-cost alternative to something more expensive and high-end and more dedicated to a specific role, like, for instance, the F-15. And you can see them moving that crane into position. They're trying to get it, I imagine, onto the right side of the airplane. I think they've already got the one on the left side of the airplane in place. So once they secure that other crane in place, they'll have enough leverage to lift the body of the airplane off the flatbed and then drive the flatbed off. The aircraft obviously still has its landing gear, so it will settle nicely. Let's see. I believe the nose cone is obviously missing. That's where the radar of the aircraft would normally be located. I believe the radar on this aircraft can spot small targets at near ground level from up to about 65, maybe as far away as 80 miles away. Not bad, pretty good. There are airplanes that can see a little further, but this one does a pretty good job. Looks like they're getting ready to put the other side of that crane into position.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get the other end clear.
That's Dave Prince. He's one of our restoration people, one of the leaders out here. At any rate, that's where the aircraft's radar is normally located. The aircraft normally has a kind of squat, pointy nose cone that covers that, and the tip of it is where the pitot tube would be. But for transport purposes, we took that off. I think we've already moved it into the hangar. We also took the wings, the tail assembly, not the tail assembly, the stabilators and the vertical tail assembly off. Again, just to make it easy to transport. No sense knocking the airplane about when you're trying to get underneath an overpass. Okay, they started the truck up. They're getting ready to lift the aircraft off the flatbed so they can move the flatbed away. I don't know how long this is supposed to take, but they got to make sure those straps are secure. You don't want to jostle the airplane right when you're trying to lift it. The edge of the wing that he's working on is called a strake. It forms the leading edge of the body where the wing meets the body of the airplane. That part of the aircraft, the strake, is also used as a lifting surface. I don't know how long this is going to take. Alright, well there's nobody on it, so I guess that's a go. Let's see. Oh, there it goes. There it goes, there it goes. Gently. Come on. Now they gotta get the back end of it off. When we get an exhibit from AMARG or or any other organization, any other military service, I should say, the exhibits go through what's known as a demilitarization process. And what I mean by that is we're just a museum, and certain exhibits have features in them that are sensitive to national security and other issues. We're not allowed to have things like top secret gear, stuff that's sensitive and things of that nature. So the military makes the airplanes suitable as exhibits by demilitarizing them. Very often what they'll do is they'll strip the cockpit of sensitive instrumentation, cameras and the like. They'll take the engine out. If the aircraft has a gun, they'll take the gun out. So no fuel, no lubricants, no engines, certainly no weapons, and certain sensitive instruments from the cockpit are all removed. And that's by law. We're not allowed to have certain things. So the exhibit that you're looking at does not have a motor, and I don't know what they did to the cockpit, but the nose cone is intact. I believe there's not going to be a radar in there at all, but as long as you don't take the nose cone off, there's nothing to miss. It looks good when you put the nose cone back on there. The air intake underneath the airplane and the afterburner can, which we removed for transport as well, those are going to be covered up with what do they call? I don't know what else to call them. They're just called covers, and they fit inside those parts of the airplane to keep the wildlife out and the weather out, because we're an outdoor museum. Those covers will be marked in the insignia of the 144th Tactical Fighter Wing, which is the unit that operated this aircraft at the Air National Guard in Fresno, California. They were stationed at the Yosemite International Airport in downtown Fresno. And they operated this particular F-16, this one right here, along with a number of others. So we're very proud to have one of their aircraft in our museum. Apparently, the aircraft is a little bit tail heavy, so they were having some trouble with the strap at the back. It was not positioned correctly in order to balance the airplane, so they repositioned the back strap to give the crane a little more leverage on the back half of the airplane. Now they're trying again. You have people on either side to guide it up. Now it looks to be a little more balanced. There you go. That's good. All right. Now just get the flatbed out from under it. Okay. There goes the flatbed. Now just put the airplane on the ground. Preferably not nose gear first. Preferably the main gear should go first. But it's nice and slow. There you go. And she's landed for the last time. Okay, that's good. So now all you got to do is get those straps off of there. Hook a truck onto the front end of the nose wheel and take it into the hangar so we can put it back together again. That's basically it, folks. Now you've seen some of what it takes to acquire an exhibit. I'll be sure to take more pictures and maybe make a few more movies about the aircraft as it comes together here in the restoration hangar. It takes a few months to put an airplane together again, even with skilled crew such as the people you see in the movie. Right now, we're working on this, I believe that's an F-84D Thunderjet. We're also refurbishing that F-105, I believe it's a No, I think it's a B model. I think it's a B model Thunder Chief, or Thud as it's more commonly called. We're putting that one, we're refurbishing that one. So there's already 2 aircraft in the restoration hangar, and I think it's probably, the F-16 is probably going to go in this wide area here in the middle. But we're not going to assemble it immediately because we have 2 other airplanes that we want to get done at the same time. Still, the F-16 is designed to be modular. That was another requirement. It was supposed to be easy to build, easy to transport, basically easy all the way around. So I think our guys are probably going to have a relatively easy time putting this aircraft back together again. It was designed to be simple to take apart and put back together again. So maybe it won't go that long. I don't think the aircraft will be ready for display in time for our May open house event. But we also have an open house event in the fall on Labor Day, Sunday. And I think that's plenty of time to get this aircraft put together, repainted, and out on the grounds right next to its probably right next to the F-15, since these 2 operate together today on the front lines. So that's a good home for it. It'll probably happen in the summer. So I'll turn the camera off and thank you for watching.